If you've been in the GoAnimate community for a while, you've probably heard of the Misbehaving movies. These films tend to be blended in together as they're virtually the same thing in terms of their plots and execution, which is exactly what I'm going to be rambling about today. May I present to you what I like to refer to as the PowerJohn Trilogy. PowerJohn misbehaves at SeaWorld, PowerJohn misbehaves at Movie World, and Sonic Fan 77 misbehaves at Dreamworld. God, these names are mouthfuls. For context, the PowerJohn Trilogy is a series of movies made by Australian GoAnimators Jimmy Gack and Mr. Dank Engine. You may know Mr. Dank Engine for his Pooh's Adventures version of the Thomas and Friends movie, The Great Race, which we won't talk about for now. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that Australian GoAnimators are usually the ones making these movies, so let me apologize on the behalf of my nation for these films and their existence. So from what I can tell, PowerJohn 25 UTTP was some random troll that Jimmy Gack and his friends despised, and made these movies out of spite or something. At least that's what I'm gonna assume, as there's no confirmed backstory as to why these films were made. But maybe that's a good thing, as these films are pretty bad. Not as bad as say Rise of the Baby shows or other films like the GoAnimate movie, but still bad. Which brings us to the first movie. PowerJohn Misbehaves at SeaWorld is the shortest movie on this list, as it is only 34 minutes long. For comparison, that is nearly as long as the Character Elimination movie, which has a running time of about 35 minutes. It's also the only movie in this trilogy made by Mr. Dank Engine. The rest are all made by Jimmy. But anyways, man, this film is so bad. There isn't really that much of a plot, it's just the self-inserts, PowerJohn and a bunch of other off-brand characters dicking around at SeaWorld, and that's it. I mean, I guess it does the obvious, you know, PowerJohn misbehaves, so I guess it isn't clickbait. But still, now let's talk about the designs, more specifically of the other characters. I get that this film was made back when everyone was using GoAnimate for schools, but that doesn't mean I can't call the design shit, because most of them are. Now they aren't the worst designs. In fact, designs of characters like Beast Boy, SpongeBob and a few others are extremely funny to look at, but even regardless, they are still pretty bad. In fact, part of me doesn't get why these characters are even there to begin with, or even have roles. I guess it's to fill up the park, but even with it said, they don't even contribute much to the plot or anything, so at this point, why even have them? On a side note, the other thing I found ironically funny were the Screaming Wiggles heads. Like, it's so stupid and awful, but I can't help but laugh. And that sums up the first movie. Definitely not that bad in terms of ironic enjoyment. Some parts can actually be kinda funny. Luckily for us, Movie World also delivers just that. Now we enter the Jimmy Gack movies, and I gotta say, Movie World feels exactly the same as SeaWorld. I mean, yeah, that does kinda suck, but you know what? At least there is still a lot of ironically funny parts in this movie. In fact, there's more in here than the SeaWorld movie. For one, the Screaming Wiggles heads are still here, being horribly funny as always. Not to mention, they're used even more. In fact, I feel like the Wiggles are probably the funniest parts of the movie in its entirety, even if their IQ has been changed to that of a coconut. This film is also way more absurd than SeaWorld, as there's roller coaster carts flying everywhere from PowerJohn's mischief. For other characters which I've never heard of getting goofy screaming faces as well. If I'm being honest, this film is definitely the kind of so bad it's good type, which is quite insane for a misbehaving movie. The only two things I should critique about this film, however, are two specific scenes. The first scene is where the Wiggles somehow travel back in time and end up unintentionally killing, which were at the time, the new Wiggles. And the Teen Titans celebrate their death, like Jesus. I get you don't like the current Wiggles, but you don't have to wish them dead. Speaking of death, PowerJohn gets killed at the end of the movie by some random stock character. Like, I mean, yeah, sure. PowerJohn in this movie did end up destroying Movie World, but he could have at least had life in prison or something. Also, PowerJohn is a real person. The fact that they just straight up celebrate his death is kinda extreme and disturbing, but outside of those minor complaints, PowerJohn Misbehaves at Movie World is for the most part an awfully bad, but funny movie. I sure hope the last movie I'll be talking about will keep the consistency. Wait, what do you mean it's a piece of shit? With PowerJohn now pretty much dead, contributing to the fact he most likely faded off the internet, Jimmy and his little friend group had another troll they hated, that being Sonic Fan 77. From what I could tell, he was pretty much a carbon copy of PowerJohn. Not just because of the fact he's also a troll, but he ended up getting a movie on him just like PowerJohn, which is what we're preparing to talk about. And let me tell you, it does not have the same vibe as the other two. This time it's actual garbage. The first thing I would like to address with this film is its goddamn running time. Like, you can't tell me someone or anyone would sit through this film for nearly 3 fucking hours. If someone was unfortunate to end up sitting through this for that long, they should win a Guinness World Record. In fact, when I was watching this movie, I ended up skipping most of it because absolutely nothing was happening. This film is just filler. In terms of the designs of the characters, I can't tell if they're better or worse. Because Jesus, some of these characters look awful. I mean, my only major problem with them in the movies was the fact that their pupils were meant to be custom, but all it resulted in was a distraction as they overlap the eyelids. But I feel like the designs got worse as although Jimmy tried to make them as accurate as he could, all it just resulted in was just a pile of accessories that like to disconnect. I know that's a very nitpicky claim, but it does get really distracting. As for what I enjoy about this movie, well, it's nothing. Except for whenever a character has a flashback, I like to play YouTube audio library music over them. Here is one I made. Oh, but that's not all I have to say about this movie. Because unlike the others, I have a lot of criticisms about this movie that I must point out. Outside of the stupid running time and constant filler, we cut back to death in this movie, and it is depicted and done in the most unfitting and mostly disrespectful way possible. First off, we have the send-off of Mr. Potato Head. For context, Don Rickles, the voice actor for Mr. Potato Head in the Toy Story movies, passed away in 2017. Whilst this movie was being made, and the creator decided to kill off Mr. Potato Head in the movie as response to that. Now, I understand that Jimmy meant no ill intent when doing this. But at the same time, it feels so out of place to depict a death like that in a go-animate movie where a depiction of a troll does stupid shit and destroys the whole theme park. It becomes to feel extremely insensitive when in one scene later, they depict Mr. Potato Head's body all in pieces as it's preparing to be buried. And before I get to my bigger gripe, I just want to say that I feel this film also should not have referenced that one real incident that happened at Dreamworld. It's sort of the same with Don Rickles' passing. It does not fit for a film like this. Once again, I know they had no bad intentions, but they still maybe shouldn't have done it. But there is one part of the movie that was meant to be out of spite. It is so fucking atrocious to a point where there's no defending it. And that, my fans and friends, is the scene where Jimmy kills Sonic Fan and puts his dead body in his attic. What the actual fuck? First of all, I should remind you all that gun laws are very strict in Australia, unless if used for hunting. You can't really have one here unless if you're a criminal or something. And second of all, this technically borders or counts as a straight up death threat. Which by that logic, means Jimmy is a fucking criminal in this universe. I don't care if what Sonic Fan 77 did was bad, you still should not depict yourself killing what is a depiction of an actual person and put their dead body in the attic to rot. That makes yourself look as much like the bad guy, if not even more. So to sum it up, Sonic Fan 77 Misbehaves at Dreamworld is probably one of the worst go-animate movies I've ever had the displeasure of viewing. This film should not be watched by a single person at all. In conclusion, the PowerJohn trilogy is quite the experience. I know I've missed the Eddie Misbehaving movie and the first PowerJohn movie, which was the Great Wolf Lodge one. but I didn't talk about them cause I didn't care for them. And from what I know, apparently Mr. Dank Engine is going to either remake or produce a completely new PowerJohn movie, this time using Flash themes. But I don't think we really need that at all. The first ones are already bad enough, we don't need them remade. Now, for those in the comments who actually want to watch these movies for yourself, I have decided to link them in the description for you to view yourself. But on a side note, don't go and harass Mr. Dank Engine or Jimmy Gack. Criticizing them for these movies is okay, but don't witch hunt or harass them, as that is a really bad thing. I honestly don't really know how to end this episode of Little Rants other than this. What I originally planned for this episode was Weather Star 4000 video, but I chose these movies as I thought they'd be fun to look at, to which they mostly were. And so for the next episode, I'll be sure to do Weather Star 4000 next. But anyways, this is me, signing off.